Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. As you can see, I'm a little bit backed up here. I got a late start, but we are going to have a great show. I had a great visitor as I was preparing the program at Starbucks today. A good friend of mine came by to visit part of our Kingwood area Democrats and had to spend that time with her. Wonderful person. We had a great time that we had to go through some issues and discuss some items, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you know what, folks? We are going to have a great show today. We are going to have a wonderful show today. Why are we going to have a wonderful show? Because we are going to talk about exactly what are the things that we are going to have to do to win this election. It's all about narrative, people. It's all about narrative, people. And that is what we are going to be talking about desperadamente. We're going to be talking about exactly how do we win the narrative. Because let me just tell you, I was just watching CNN a few minutes ago. And in watching CNN, I got pretty darn upset at the reporters. They, there's a hurricane that's coming, and let me make sure that there's something that just happened here. There's a hurricane that is going to be coming into the Carolinas pretty darn soon. I guess sometime in the next few, not weeks or anything, but this hurricane is coming in. And what is it that these guys are doing? They asked Trump, "Hey, what about Puerto Rico?" And he said, "Oh, Puerto Rico went very good. We excelled in Puerto Rico." And why did we excel in Puerto Rico? We excelled in Puerto Rico because, we did well. And even though it's an island, we did very, very well in Puerto Rico. All we know the story about Puerto Rico. We know that Puerto Ricans right now are in trouble. We know that a whole lot, as opposed to the 60-something Puerto Ricans who died, it was really 3,000 Puerto Ricans, or approximately 3,000 Puerto Ricans who died. So we know that the story that he's telling is not correct. But did we get these guys to correct him? Did we get the media to do their job right as they were asking him the questions? Not at all. They stayed there and they allowed Donald Trump. They allowed Donald Trump to create his own narrative as far as how good the hurricane response was with was with Puerto Rico. It is something that we have to be very careful of, folks, because let me tell you what's happening now. When people go to the voting, I'm going to talk about that when we talk about people going to the voting booth, because this is very important. 2018 is extraordinarily important. And what we have to do, importantly so, is we have to start setting the narrative. There are a whole lot of people that know they need to go out and vote now. There are a whole lot of people know that voting is a must. But there are a whole lot of people who are not 100% sure what they're going to do, including independents. And what they're going to be thinking about is, wait a minute, the economy is doing just fine. Everything seems to be going just fine. Just maybe, we do nothing. Just maybe. And that can happen because we have the wrong narrative. That can happen because we as progressives who are trying to get that right narrative out there to make sure that people vote appropriately just don't get it done. And I saw that today with the news, just on the news right now, with the way the media handled the one question to Donald Trump. How are you doing with preparations for the hurricane that is about to hit North Carolina? Is it going to be comparable to the way it was handled in Puerto Rico? Oh, is it? What exactly are you doing? There are a whole lot of questions that we have to ask, right? And these questions don't have easy answers. And there has to be a narrative prepared. We, the people, we, the progressives, have to get our narrative straight. Because here's the reality. When somebody goes into that booth, I'm going to tell you, and this goes from experience. When they are not sure exactly how they are to vote or how to vote, the narrative is what they hear. And Trump is extraordinarily very good at the narrative. So all they're going to hear in their voices, and I'm going to read that when we start with the program officially. But before I start with the program officially, I need to let you know that somewhere around 3:15, we're going to get a call in from Daniel Cohen, who is the president of Indivisible Houston. But of course, he's not. He won't be speaking, I don't think, on behalf of the because we're going to be talking, I think, something with regards to party. So he won't necessarily be talking about this issue as somebody from Indivisible, but he will be talking about a very, very important issue. One of the reasons we have problems with him. But anyhow, folks, we are going to get started with the program now. I'm about to bring it up. Like I told you, I'm kind of killing time as I was late to get all this stuff here done. But anyhow, the title of the program today is, as the 2018 election approaches, we must be diligent in calling out Trump lies. And this has to do with the narrative as well, my friends. And the subtitle is as follows: Lies have a tendency to become truths if they are not refuted early. Trump is on a tear about the economy. It's the economy, stupid. Let's not let him reframe the truth. That is the subtitle. That is the subtitle, and I'll tell you why I did that as the subtitle. Anyhow, the election is about 56 days away. This is the time where narratives are starting to cauterize in the brains of those who will be going out to vote. Again, now is the time where people are going to start in framing the debate, framing what they're going to do, framing how they're going to vote. This is happening in their minds right now. The mental tidbits people have embedded in their psyche when they go to that voting booth will cause them to make split decisions. When they reach a point where they are not sure the canned message resonate, then what? That is the effectiveness of narratives. Trump has already started his, and here's his narrative. Why would you elect people who would impeach me? Whether you like me or not, the economy is good, which rings well for your personal economy, your pocketbook. The factories are opening because of my trade wars. People are starting to have to build things in America because I'm not allowing them to bring them in. Trump, the narratives makes no sense. The narrative is false. The narrative is that way. But Trump is making a narrative that the low information person can take to the voting ballot with them. And that is what we have to counter right now. It may seem silly to those of us who are in the know. In reality, that will resonate with many, especially with the low information voter. We need to build two narratives. One that details Trump's evil, and the other what we are going to do, what progressives are going to do if they're honored to have earned the vote of the people. So it's all about narrative, people. It's all about narrative, and we have to get our narrative together. We have to let people know that right now, Trump is killing healthcare, and healthcare does not know party. Healthcare does not know if you're a Republican or a Democrat. Healthcare, what he's doing to it will hurt you. When we come into power, we will ensure that pre-existing conditions are no longer a factor. We're going to ensure that we start the drumbeat to Medicare for all. We're going to ensure that your kids who are now fighting to pay those bills, or you're helping them fighting to pay for those student loans, that they're having to live with you at home again because they can't afford it. We are pledging that we are going to find a way to stick it back to those bankers who screwed you, who took what was yours. We are going to promise you that when it comes to not only there are these narratives that we have to build, we are going to promise you that there is going to be some sort of a what is the word that I want to use? income for those who absolutely want to work. We promise. We promise. We promise. We need to build a narrative that when that person goes into the voting booth, they know categorically speaking that what's going to happen is a positive in their pocketbooks, a positive for their health, a positive for all these issues. We promise you that the criminal justice system will change. We promise you. Those are the things we're going to effect as we come in. Now, here's the deal, folks. Before I get to the blog of the week, which you know what we're talking about. And folks, if you're just joining us, I ask you kindly, please share this program. Please share this program on your wall. Please share this program on your page. Please share this program on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, and everywhere else. Why? Because you're not going to hear all of this narrative if you're just watching CNN, MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, NBC, CBS, ABC, and all these other channels, because they can't tell you all these things. Why can't they tell you all these things? Because they are owned by the plutocracy, meaning they have to get their message out, only ones that don't affect the people who advertises with them. And even if they're talking against some of the folks who are advertising against them, they have to be very careful. They can't tell you the whole story because they cannot affect that somehow you are going to stop buying from the people who support them. But in our case, we don't do that. You support us. We are only owed to you. And that's our promise. But anyhow, notice on the news, we are so concerned about all the crap that Donald Trump does every day, and he does that on purpose, that we don't see the ills within the country. We don't see what's going on. We don't see that the country is falling apart. We don't see that. Here is a new title. Donald Trump's tax cut scam explodes the federal budget deficit. But folks, we said it would happen, and it did. It is not getting a lot of coverage as the news is dominated by Trump's shenanigans that deflect from damage his administration is afflicting in America. The federal budget deficit is going through the roof. Have you heard that? Did they talk a whole lot about that, or did they just say it in one line and move on? But here, it's deeper than just the federal deficit going up. How it is going up is the real issue. And man, I want you to hear this. Check this out. The federal budget deficit was $895 billion for the first 11 months of the fiscal year 2018. The Congressional Budget Office estimates $222 billion more than the shortfall recorded during the same period last year. So as Trump gets more, he's blowing up. Looks like I got a call on. I'm going to get to the call in 1 minute. I'm coming to your call right now. Give me 2 seconds here. As was the case last year, this year's outlays were affected by shifts in the timing of certain payments that otherwise would have been due on a weekend or on holiday. If not for those, the increase in the deficit would have been smaller, a tad bit smaller. But it is huge. The deficit for the last 11 months period would have been $154 billion larger than last year's amount. It's still huge. But I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want to read this part for you because it's very important. Ironically, and this is my writing, ironically, corporate income tax the receipts fell by $71 billion, but individual income and payroll taxes rose by $105 billion. In other words, the tax cut that was supposed to help the masses have them paying more, or as corporations are paying less. I think I have the call on one, and my hunch is this is Daniel Cohen. Is that correct, Daniel?
That's correct. How you doing?
All right. Daniel is here with us. Daniel is the president of Indivisible Houston, but I don't think he's going to be speaking in that context because we're going to be talking some very political issues with respect to Democrats and Democrats supporting Republicans. So first of all, I got a piece that you wrote today. I haven't gotten a chance to read it yet, but if it's from you, I know I know that it's well written and well researched, Daniel. But you kind of alerted me to something that Cuellar had done. So why don't you tell us the story and preempt the story with a little background?
Sure, and thanks for having me on the show because I think people will be interested in this. Henry Cuellar is a congressional representative from the state of Texas. He's a co-chair of the Blue Dog Coalition. which fights for sort of conservative or centrist Democrats. And Henry Cuellar is the second highest recipient in Congress of private prison industry donations in one form or another. And the number one recipient is John Culberson here in Texas' 7th Congressional District. Cuellar is number 2, and John Carter is number 3. And what's interesting is that Henry Cuellar went to a fundraiser with his friend John Carter recently, and a staffer of his sent out a letter inviting people to John Carter Conservative for Congress contribution programs and pages with donor levels up to $2,700, which is how they're bundling these super donors from the private prison industry so that they can influence outcomes in Congress.
Now, let me ask you this. Why would, and I know you kind of specify, but first of all, why would Cuellar do that? I mean, we are in a period of time where, first of all, Republicans are not they're not in good favor with the vast majority of the country as it is right now. Independents, Democrats, and now probably around 20% of Republicans. So why would he do that?
Well, these private prison industries dangle not only campaign contributions, but industry in the towns of these congressional representatives. They basically pork barrel their way into town and demonstrate that they can hold prisoners for much lower prices because they pay their own staff less and because they cut tons of regulatory and ethical corners. And the congressional representatives go to bat for them in Congress so that they can make the law more to their liking. So it's sort of an I scratch your back, you scratch mine, crony, corrupt, big business complex that impacts the outcome of policy, the outcome of civil rights, and the outcome of where our tax dollars go.
You know, Daniel, I said this categorically several times, and I'm speaking to Daniel Cohen, president of Indivisible Houston. I've said this several times now, and I said this election and probably the next few subsequent election periods is critical for this country. And based on the behavior of the Republican Party, they represent a clear and present danger to this country. And as such, it is in no one's interest, neither a politician or an individual, to vote for the party, even if you are. Nobody's asking you to switch parties or anything like that. But for the sake, people talk about being patriotic. People talk about wanting what's best for the country. Is there any reason now, as you can see it, and speak now as an individual, Daniel Cohen, is there any reason you can give me right now for anybody in Texas to support any Republican of any stripe, federally, state, local, or otherwise?
I haven't met them. I haven't. So look, let me speak clearly, because people know that I wear several hats. I'm going to speak to you now. I'm a Democratic Party precinct chair. Mm-hmm. I took that position on to help organize for November. It's not a secret. People know that I do that. From the perspective of any Democratic Party precinct chair in this area who is pushing sort of progressive convictions at this point, there are naturally people who are candidates that we're supporting as strongly as possible. And none of them in this area, are going to be a Republican from the progressive precinct chair groups or the other organizations that endorse in this area. But it's worth mentioning, and it's worth noting in this case, that Cuellar and Carter are working together. A private prison Democrat is backing a private prison Republican at a big money fundraiser. But it's also worth noting that Henry Cuellar supports the immigration policy of the president and the immigration policy of the other hardliners in the Senate and in the House. We have a broad problem of influence of money on the system. That's the vision that I think a lot of people are relating to right now. That's how somebody went from 1% in the polls in the presidential primary in 2016 to pulling off like a 50-50 race for, touch and go race late in the game. Or maybe not quite 50-50, but still a much higher than 1% chance of picking up the nomination. So I think that that's what we're going to see is people are going to be responding to that. Given the level of corruption in the White House right now, and everybody who's looking the other way on behalf of the White House and other smaller, bought and sold politicians who have corrupt special interests in their back pocket and are pushing them toward unethical, unprincipled positions, I think all of those people are pretty much, their political career is on the line, as it should be right now.
Absolutely. So now I've been also talking about folks going out there and creating a narrative. In fact, that is what the blog of the week is the blog of the week today is going to be about. And this specifically is going to be about Trump changing the economic narrative, because as it turns out right now, what he's cauterizing in people's minds is that the economy is good. If the economy is good, why get me fired? If the economy is good, why would you elect these other folks who are going to disrupt Washington and then in effect cause the economy to go down? That's a narrative that he has started pushing, not in those exact words, but in words, in simpler words that people can understand. And my concern is that when people go into that booth and they're just not sure what to do, there are a lot of people that go into that booth just not sure, especially here in fact in one of the districts that you mentioned earlier with what is it, District 7, I believe, one of these districts. It is the people that are just not sure. The first thing that they grab onto is the easiest narrative they have in the back of their minds. And what I've continuously talked about is that we have to define a simple narrative that is on the minds of people when they go in there. Why to make the flip? Why you must do it? Because anytime somebody's making a flip, Daniel, they think twice. And they normally go and do what's comfortable to them. Your point.
I mean, I think what's resonating with people is that these large overarching institutions have ultimate power, wealth, and control of your life, and try to make you an indentured servant to a system that's constantly on the verge of falling apart because it's been built to be large but fragile. I mean, you look at the GOP tax plan for a moment, right? We're looking at 30 million people who aren't withholding enough from their taxes and are therefore going to get hit with a penalty post-election. There's going to be property tax write-offs that disappear that people are going to be hit with, to your point, in the 7th Congressional District after the election, because and a lot of people bought those houses while factoring in their property tax write-offs and other costs or lack thereof that went into it. So, do you want a crony and corrupt leadership group that's just lining their pockets with taxpayer dollars and pushing poor policy? Multiple millions of individuals are handing their own hard earnings over to these giant mega corporations who then turn around and stick it into the pockets of politicians who protect their interests in the next tax bill. It's robbery.
Daniel, I mean, you just said something that's important.
It's privatizing.
You just said something that is very important that I want to hit you on right now.
Sure.
You made that mention about a lot of those people in District 7. And folks, this is a national show. This applies all over the country. A lot of people don't understand what was in the tax cut scam. I just gave you the budget deficit, how much higher it is. And I also showed you that corporations, while they are going to be paying, they so far are paid $71 billion less in taxes. The average American citizen has paid over $105 billion more. All of that came from the budget office, Trump's budget office. Now, here's the funny thing about it, Daniel. You made a specific claim, right? Are you guys in who are really block walking in 7, letting those people know that unless you elect people who are willing to overturn that tax cut scam, they are going to be left stuck with the bill with those with what occurs with the property taxes, etc.?
It's being pushed as hard as it can be pushed individually, and there are areas of the district where it hits people. It hits everyone, but it hits some people extremely hard,
right,
in a very specific manner. So it's a conversation that's ongoing, but I think it definitely resonates, right? If you're privatizing the losses and you're making the gains all public, you're just robbing people.
Exactly.
And that's what we're seeing with representatives like that. So I think people understand that, though. I think that they're tired of graft and cronyism and corruption. And I think that this White House is a good representation of it. In addition to all of the scandals that are ongoing, and we don't know where the bottom of where the end of the tunnel is with any of those. But in addition to all of those, we know that there was an entire private career as a crooked plutocrat prior to this that's just littered with all kinds of immoral actions and behaviors. And then there's the policy decisions that accompany it. Propping up big coal. I mean, everything about what's going on right now screams of, a Gilded Age robber baron type of figure running the country. And somebody who's just an old world sort of like coal tycoon. And there are people who look the other way, and they might wear a different outfit or not be quite as bombastic, but they either look the other way or they pretty much agree with it.
Right.
This is the stuff that they learned in the Koch brothers legal programs. That's the kind of economics that they teach. So they're all on the same page and they don't believe in democracy. Very open about that.
No,
James Buchanan, Reagan's, economic influence said very specifically, that a despot may arise. And if it does, well, that can happen. They don't believe in people voting in their own leaders. And
it has happened. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Well, Daniel Cohen, look, anything else you wanted to say real quickly before I go to the blog of the week?
You let Berto know if you need to register to vote, and we'll register you ourselves. I'll make sure that I get out there and do it.
Absolutely, folks. That was Daniel Cohen, president of Indivisible Houston. Look, this young man has been out there in the fields working every single day. He doesn't take a break. He's out there in the field. We have in Harris County, Texas, as we have in many counties around this country right now, the activists are working their butts off. They want that blue wave because they know that is what America needs right now. America, in their opinion, in my opinion, in the opinion of most people, we must have that blue waves. But folks, do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay. While I decided to do the weekly blog post, right, I just thought about get into Obama recently, right? Obama recently had a speech, and in that speech, he did something that Obama rarely does. Obama went ahead and what is the word that I want to use? He went ahead and he didn't allow Donald Trump to get away with talking about the economy. He did the right thing. The president went ahead and pointed out the following. And let me see if I can get to that. I think I just pulled up the video. I hadn't prepared the video to show today, but what I'm going to do is I just got it queued up. And I want you, it's a piece of the video that I cut out, and I want you to listen to this part, how Obama handled it, and then I'll go directly to the blog of the week. But here it goes.
But when I came into office in 2009, we were losing 800,000 jobs a month. 800,000. Millions of people were losing their homes. Many were worried we were entering into a second Great Depression. So we worked hard to crisis, but also to break. During that crisis, returned the economy to healthy growth and initiated the longest streak of job creation on record. And we covered another 20 million Americans with health insurance, and we cut our deficits by more than half, partly by making sure that people like me, who've been given such amazing opportunities by this country, pay our fair share of taxes to help folks coming up behind me. And by the time I left office, household income was near its all-time high, and the uninsured rate had hit an all-time low, and wages were rising, and poverty rates were falling. I mention all this just so when you hear how great the economy is doing right now, let's just remember when this recovery started. I mean, I'm glad it's continued, but when you hear about this economic miracle that's been going on, when the job numbers come out, monthly job numbers, and suddenly Republicans are saying it's a miracle, I have to kind of remind them, actually, those job numbers are the same as they were in 2015 and 2016. And anyway, I digress. So we made progress, but, and this is the truth, my administration couldn't reverse 40-year trends in only 8 years, especially once Republicans took over the House of Representatives in 2010 and decided to block everything we did, even things they used to support.
Okay, the reason I wanted you to hear that, right, is that he finally came out and told the truth that even the media, whenever Donald Trump comes and says how great the economy is doing, you would expect the media, at least the media, would come out and say, well, nothing has really changed. And in reality, the level of increase has actually slowed. Okay? It has actually slowed. Yes, it's still rising, but the inclination is less. So therefore, there's nothing that Trump is doing to spoof the economy any more so than President Obama did. But what Donald Trump knows how to do is to tell a story with a flair. And what is today's program that I'm talking about? We have to get the narrative right. When those people go into that voting booth, we have to ensure that when they think, oh no, I don't know, what should I vote? Should I vote these guys out? Well, if I vote these other guys in, they're going to make life difficult for Trump. Maybe I'll just stick with Trump. No, you have to let folks understand that what is happening with our narrative is that no, those are not truths. Anyhow, Trump lies becomes truths if we do not refute them at every turn is the title of the blog of the week. We should define lies as that's a Donald Trump. In other words, somebody tells a lie, stop doing a Donald Trump. Somebody lies, stop doing a Donald Trump going forward. But here is the thing. We tend to be so overwhelmed by the constancy of Trump's lies that we tend to ignore them. We do that at our peril. Unchallenged lies become truths to many, and they can make the difference in closed elections. The economy is doing very well in many aspects. Employment is relatively high, even though wages are not keeping up with real inflation. This recovery did not start with Trump, but with the Obama administration. In a recent speech, former President Obama, that's the speech you just heard, pushed back on all the hoopla about the economy under Donald Trump. Folks, if you're just joining us, please do remember to go ahead and share this program. By the time I left office, household income was near its full all-time high, and the uninsured rate hit an all-time low, said President Obama. Poverty rates were falling. And he continued, when you hear how great the economy is doing right now, let's just remember when this recovery started. The former president said, I am glad it continued, but when you hear about this economic miracle that's been going on, when the job numbers come out, monthly job numbers, and suddenly Republicans are saying it's a miracle, I have to kindly remind them. Actually, those job numbers are the same, actually now better. The presidents in many times were better. Are the same as they were in 2015, 2016. And anyway, I digress. So we must progress. But, and this is the truth, the administration couldn't reverse 40 years. And we talk about those 40 years trend all of the times on this program. You can't, in 8 years, take care of a 40-year decline because of policies that's been screwing Americans for 40 years. Anyhow, Robert Reich gave even more context to refute Trump lies about his economic prowess. On the claim that Trump is giving us the best job growth ever, wrong. Job growth has actually slowed. In the last 19 months of the Obama administration, the economy created 3.96 million jobs. In the first 19 months of Trump, 3.58 million jobs. There's no Trump miracle. Trump's job growth is slowing. So that is the truth. Those are the numbers. On the claim that we are in a period of the lowest unemployment ever. Rubbish. The unemployment rate is now at 3.9%. That's good, but it doesn't measure how many people are still too discouraged to look for work or are working part-time who'd rather be working full-time. The labor participation rate, percent of prime working age work who actually have jobs, has been stuck at 88.9% for over a year. And the current 3.9% rate is hardly better than ever in history. It was 3.4% in 1968 under Johnson and below 3.9% for much of 1951, 1952, and 1953 under Eisenhower. The practical question is always how low the Fed will allow unemployment to fall before raising rates. For the fear of inflation in 1996, unemployment fell to 4.4%, but Fed Chair Alan Greenspan then raised rates. This time around, Fed Chair Janet Yellen and her successor Jerome Powell have been quite accommodating, but Powell is starting to raise rates. Let me put that in English. Whenever there full employment, you can drop employment to 1%. But what you get is you start getting based on how our economy works, you start getting a whole lot more people looking for jobs. And as that rate keeps falling, wages increase. As wages increase, the companies have to pay more money. As they have to pay more money, the prices of their products have to go up. As the prices of their product have to go up, that is defined as inflation because people now have to pay more for the products that they buy. So there's a balancing act there as far as how much to let folks, how much to make things go up. And that balancing act means we have to increase unemployment so that people have less money to spend. If people have less money to spend, then the inflation stays stable. Now, look, remember who the government, who these people generally work for, the plutocracy, right? All of us would want that to occur. We want those wages going up. We want all of that to happen. But it is the feds who normally put the brakes on it. And they put the brakes on it to control inflation. And why, if you really look at things that, 3%, 4%, 5% inflation, it isn't all that bad if it's well managed, right? But for bankers, they hate inflation, right? Because if you borrow money in $2018 and have to pay it back in $2020, which were inflated, which let's say over those 4 years, you got 20% inflation. That means these guys are getting paid back with money that's worth less. Bankers hate that because the nominal rate of the money they're getting is much different than the actual rate, the actual value of the money they're getting. So, remember who these guys are really working for, not you. They're working for the plutocracy. Okay, on the claim that we are in the fastest economic growth ever. Wrong again. The economy is now growing at an annualized rate of 4.2%. That's for the second quarter. That's not as good as the 5.1% and the 4.9% achieved in the second quarter of 2014. Who was in office in 2014 with a higher growth rate again? Oh my God, it's Donald Trump's nemesis, President Obama, or the 4.7% in one quarter in 2011. Who was the president in 2011 again? Oh my God, President Obama. During that time, during the Clinton years of 97 to 99, it grew by over 4.5% annually. Under Reagan, the recovery average 4.4% a year. Under Eisenhower, even faster. So that's another lie that he told, but it's in people's minds. And if it's in people's minds, when they go to the poll, they may think, oh my God, but things are doing better than Obama. No, it is not. And what we have to do is tell them, no, it is not. Obama grew faster, but he wasn't flashy like Trump to come out and say, oh, it's the fastest thing since apple pie or since whatever is faster. He doesn't do that. Probably should have done that, but he doesn't do that. Anyhow, continuing. On the claim that under Trump we have the best wages ever. Not even close. Today's hourly wage has less purchasing power than it did over 4 decades ago. Adjusting for inflation, the average hourly rate in 1973 would be $23.68 today. Yet today's actual average hourly rate is $22.73. And of course, the lion's share is going to the top. Don't be fooled and tell people the truth. Don't be fooled and tell people the truth continuously. We have to be the ones providing the narrative. We have to be the ones giving the narrative. So folks, let's do that. Let's give the narrative. Anyhow, there is such a barrage of lies and misinformation from Donald Trump and his administration that one can get lost or overwhelmed trying to refute them all. We must challenge them all, however. We must do so often in all spaces, social media, blogs, articles in print and online, on the radio, on videos, everywhere. You see, that's why I always tell you, share, 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 because we have to have people knowing the truth. We have to ensure that folks are not snowed. We have to ensure that people are going to be voting with information worth having. And you can't have that just looking at everyday media. You can't have that just doing one thing. Okay? Continuing, folks, we have said we must do so often in all places, social media, blogs, articles in print and online, on the radio, on videos, everywhere. En todos lugares tenemos que estar, tenemos que tener o saber lo que vamos a decir a la gente para cuando entran a votar. Saben por qué están votando y para qué van a votar. Para los que me están escuchando en español. All right, folks, here is the deal. Here is the deal, my dear brothers and sisters. Here is the deal. You see, the lies from the administration is a metastasizing cancer. And we all must become a constancy of chemo to ensure the eradication. Remember, this is not a Democratic or a Republican year. This is a people's year. This is a year that we are supposed to be talking about our brothers and sisters of all swipes. All. This is a revolution that has to occur by the entire damn country. Because, folks, if you look behind the scenes, the individual, the middle class folk, the poor folk, they're all getting screwed. Forget about these ideological battles for now. Forget about the abortion issue if you are a conservative. Forget about the guns issue if you are a libertarian. Forget about all these issues because those issues are moot. Those issues are moot if you don't have a way to live, if you don't have a country, if you don't have these things, my brothers and sisters. All right? So today, share the narrative. Share the narrative of what progressives are going to be doing when they enter office. Work with everybody. His fallen poll numbers may indicate that we are somewhat doing the job already. But we cannot rest. I'm pretty sure as the 2018 election gets closer, an overflowing river of right-wing and corporate dollars will flood in to support these guys. Remember, they don't necessarily like Trump, but they are happy that while he is entertaining the mainstream media and other gullible folk, the looting of the United States continues in full vogue. Folks, this is a call-in show as well. We had Daniel Cohen earlier on for a while. Give us a call, 646-716-5812. Whatever you want to talk about, it can be on this subject, it can be on any subject, because this show belongs to you. As you can see, by the way, I need to tell you guys something about what I'm doing now. My new book, I'm hoping to have it. I'm writing it a chapter at a time. And so what's going on now is I sent out a mailer last night talking about that book. And what I'm going to do right now is give you what the tentative cover looks like. I think I'm going to be able to do that. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I thought I had the tentative cover somewhere. Oh, I know I do have it somewhere. But here's the deal. The book is supposed to be coming out. Well, I'm writing it a chapter at a time, and the expectation is that I am going to be able to write about a chapter every 2 weeks or so. That is my goal right now, to write 2 chapters every week. And what I'm doing is for those folks that decide to subscribe to Politics Done Right, they will, as I write the chapter, I'll put it out in for you to see. And there's a book. It's How to Make America Utopia. Subtitle: Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. All right, that is the title of the book, and that is a subtitle. As I always say when I write books, right, is subject to change. This title, even the face may change a little bit, but I kind of like it. I kind of showed it to a couple of people, and they said, "Yeah, I like the way it looks. How to Make America Utopia." Because you know what? We are rich enough as a country to be just that, to be utopia. And I tell you what, if you want to be on that list that goes ahead and get this book, as we release it 1 chapter at a time, go ahead, folks, to patreon.com, patreon.com/politicsdoneright, and become a subscriber of whatever stripe you want, and you will be able to go ahead and read the chapters as I write it. You know, I have a whole lot of stuff going on in the head right now because there's a whole lot of things. Oh, I'm not showing you there's the book. I had the book on the preview page. There is the book. Go to patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right. patreon.com/politics done right. That is going to be a supplement to, my book, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, which has been out for quite a while. But unfortunately, this book has been out for a while. And unfortunately, there's so much in this book that is still valid. Well, everything in it is still valid. Sadly, we have not taken care of all the issues that we needed to take care of in that book. The patent system, the way it worked. I explained how that patent system had me up against Amazon.com's one click, that I couldn't develop the software because of Amazon.com. I talk about the farmers who their seeds got polluted by their adjacent land by another farmer who used Monsanto's seeds, and they sued this guy who used his own seeds. Folks, this system needs a revamp, but most people don't understand how this system works. How to make America utopia, take away the economy from those who rigged it. We're going to say, these are the things that we need to do, because I tell you what, an economy doesn't have to be complicated, right? These things, the only complication in our economy is done so that you can be robbed clean. That's the only reason we have things like derivatives and all that kind of stuff. They'll tell you, oh, we're protecting or managing risk and all that kind of stuff. No, what you're doing is ensuring that a whole lot of people can make a whole lot of money without doing any damn work. That is what it does. I know a lot of people won't take exception to that. But, my dear brothers and sisters, that is what it's all about. So what I'm going to do right now is I don't have my phone up here, but I need to go ahead and see what you guys are talking about here real quickly. So bear with me as I pull up all the stuff that you're saying, and then we'll talk about that. And then by then the show would be close to being over. So, but anyhow, folks, my expectation really is that at some time in our lifetime, we are really going to change this economy in such a manner that it serves us all. Right now, it definitely does not. And, well, there we go with the phone. There we go. All right. So my expectation is that ultimately we are going to get this system changed. My stuff is not just raw hope. My folks is in the hundreds of people I talk to every month, right? Both online and offline, that I see things going. Chase says, Camille, I don't know if you're still here, but thank you for wishing a great show. Michael Rudnin, Trump promised infrastructure investment. He's failed to live up to that. But not only has he failed to live up to the infrastructure adjustment, Rudnin, here's the problem. He can't do it anymore. He gave away over $1 trillion over 10 years. That is money that instead of giving away could have been placed into infrastructure, which would have created the circulation of money that would have zoomed the economy. So that's dead. The kind of infrastructure bill that they wanted to do was the government put up 10% or something like that, and the county and the cities and whatever had to somehow find somebody else to come up with the rest. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work. Michael Dean Newton, a quarter way through audio book fair. There you go. Tell me how it goes. Okay, Michael Rudnin, Puerto Rico suffered the worst hurricane in 100 years. 3,000 people died, and the response was severely lacking, as we said before. Catherine Morgan, my good friend from Coffee Party. As of 8/1/18, Trump is up to over 4,200 lies, according to CNN. And those are the ones we know about. Great for giving me that information, Kathleen. Michael Rudnin, Trump's trade war net cost the United States 400,000 jobs. Yeah, but we need to... remember when we talk about narrative, Rudnin? That is a narrative we have to be putting out there. So let me put that narrative out there. The trade war cost us 400,000 jobs. Here's the deal. You just, in that thing you wrote, Trump's trade war net cost the United States 400,000 jobs. We're going to make it simple. Donald Trump's trade war cost 400,000 jobs. One of the things is with progressives and the way we talk a whole lot of times, is that what we do a whole lot of times is we don't tell the full story. Or rather, we tell too much of the full story for narrative. Look, when you're listening to Politics Done Right, you want to hear the full story. You want us to be exact so that we can inform each other as far as how things work. But when you have when you have 5 or 10 or 15 seconds to talk to folks, You don't try to fit a whole lot into that 10 to 15 seconds. You go out there and you give the punchline. And then later on, you can tell them, and if you want more, you go here. That is how it goes, my dear friends. Okay. Rudden, Democrats are split on private prison donations. Yeah, that's what Daniel Cohen was just talking about. Private prison should go away, period. You cannot have an incentive. You cannot have a private company who has an incentive to have people locked up, have contracts that say they have to meet, that the government has to meet a certain occupancy rate, and think the government's not going to lock folk up. It doesn't make any sense. Newcomer Julia Pantermuli Allison, welcome aboard. May Wood, I seem to have lost all audio as I was trying here to share. Oh, I don't know what happened. Senor Bruce Pollard, the problem is that when you walk, the people you talk to are not interested or maybe smart enough to figure it out. I know this because I walk at least twice a week. Look, let me tell you, you're right, Daniel. I mean, you're right, Bruce. But you have to keep on doing it. I tell you what, I talk to people over and over again. Some people, as I'm talking to them, they're listening, they're taking it in, they're believing, and then the relapse occurs, and then you do it again, and then the relapse occur. And the thing that usually prevents the biggest relapse is when you are able to tell that story in a narration that is directly applicable to their lives. And what I try to do when I'm talking to people is I'm listening to them. I'm not only listening to the things that they're talking about, I'm listening to the things that what they're talking about infers. So if I'm starting to infer that this person has a mother that is 86 years old that soon will be in an convalescent home, if I understand that this person may have kids going to college or will have kids going to college, and I understand all these things about this person as they're narrating a story to me, then we as progressive ought to be apt enough in the message so that we can use their personal story, tailor our policy as how it would make their personal story more livable. And that is how we map to them. We associate them, their lives, with the reality of what we provide. And alternatively, not alternative, but as well, in giving them the progressive message and how it makes their lives better, we have to be ready to tell them what it is specifically that the current administration is doing to make it that much more difficult for them. Because then they can make the contrast. If you're just saying, hey, I'm going to do something good for you, and they think that it's okay right now as they have it, that the way Trump is doing things right now for them, it's okay, then there's no change needed. But if they can see that what's happening to them now is harmful and what you are proposing is better, then you have a better chance of talking and them listening to you. Now, it's not a foolproof way, right? Because, there's this muscle memory thing, and I think we spoke about that yesterday, where you kind of revert to form a lot. Look, the hardest thing for folks not to do is revert to form. Revert to form is comfortable. Revert to form is easy. Revert to form is like having comfort food, right? It's always easier not to step out. But stepping out is always more rewarding. Irrespective of what we're talking about, politics, life, love, everything else. Stepping, doing something different is always has that potential to be more rewarding. Michael Rudnin, that was your video editing? Yes, that was. I cut to remove a lot of the pause and applause, etc. I do that with the videos a lot, and then I put them back out. It's a hell of a lot of work, but man, somebody has to do it. I do it for you. So don't forget to go to patreon.com, patreon.com/politicsdoneright and become a subscriber. And if you are already a subscriber, share our link, our subscription link, and ask your friends, or even if you're not a subscriber because you can't right now, you don't have the wherewithal to do so, share the links and tell them, hey, look, we need to keep these progressive shows online. So go ahead and share that baby. Getting overwhelmed by Trump's lies. Don't be overwhelmed. That effect has commonality between authoritarians. You're so right about that, my brother Rudnin. And Rudnin, is so great to have you back at home again. I hope your hurt's healing a bit more right now. Maywood, Michael Redden, old iPad, no keyboard. I don't think that was me. Hey, Ashley Miller. Ashley, what is it? Cannabis Queen. Welcome aboard, my dear friend. We're going to be doing a few things going forward. And in fact, why don't you put, Ashley, right there in the notes, go ahead and put the link to your new page that you just created. See if you get some of the folks here to like the page. She has my endorsement. She's a good person. Okay, let's see. Daniel Ledoux. I've got to read Daniel Ledoux. The progressive delusion that utopia is possible. Yes, Daniel, it depends on how you define utopia. And what I want to do as an activist is I want to, in fact, that's what I intend to put with my book, is try to define a path to utopianism, right? And it doesn't mean perfectionism. It will be about utopian, moving on to a utopia, right? Nothing is perfect. That's what we want to do. Folks, go ahead and go to patreon.com/politics done right. If you have any, let me do one more refresh to see if I have any more comments before I move on and close the show down, because I'd like to make sure and talk and answer to all my good folk out here. Okay, looks like I got them all. I think I got them all. If I missed any of them, or if you want to tell me anything specifically, you can always directly hit me up. Folks, this is Politics Done Right. I'd like you again one last time, and let me go ahead and change the screen here to give you the suggestion as to what I'd like to ask you to go to, and that is go to that screen and go to patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right. Become a subscriber. It's simple, it's cheap, and you can feel the goodness of you making sure the progressive message continues, that we can get that progressive message out. It is up to you. We are only going to win if we have the support from us all, and that's what we got to do. So please go ahead and go to patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right. It has been my pleasure to be with you. Remember, I have the best listeners on the planet. I have the best supporters, the best followers, the best, because you guys are just great. Patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this, baby. I am, and what am I? I am out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.